This week on Supercars Talk, there's a race report, there's fireworks, there's cinematic cameras, and there's new liveries to talk about everywhere. The big news this week is the cinematic cameras in the pits. I wasn't sure what was going on. It seemed to, they had one cinematic kind of camera. I'm not sure if it's an actual camera or just the way they were filming, but there seemed to be a lot of it in the pits and after the races where it's hard to describe, but where the background kind of goes out of focus and they only focus on like the one guy changing the tyre or something like that. And the way, someone can probably tell me how it all works, but it seems to be, like I think some things film in like 30 frames a second normally, and these cinematic, they film in like maybe 24 frames a second or something. Anyway, it was, to me, it was just a little bit off-putting. I mean, they're great for doing intro clips and things like that in and out, but it's not something that's normally part of the telling, or I've never noticed it before if it is. That was just, anyway. Let's not focus on that too much. There was fireworks on Saturday night. How exciting was that? And I nearly said Friday night because it felt a bit like a Friday night thing. Speaking of Friday night, racing finally on, and we had a blackout at home like all day Friday. So I just saw the highlights of the practice session. So that was quite disappointing. I was really looking forward to coming home on Friday night and actually watching the practice sessions, which didn't happen, unfortunately, because of the blackout, but at least the power was back on for the racing. Over the weekend, we got to see a few more liveries. So the Kostecki with his Boost Kangaroo car, the silver on the bonnet and the roof. The silver didn't work on the Mustang, so why did we bother putting it on the Commodore? A little bit disappointed with that. I think it's pretty cool. If the wild card does end up happening with the Boost car, how that's got the Kiwi on the side, and then, the Kostecki Aussie car has the Kangaroo. That was pretty cool. Reynolds had a new Penrite livery, even more busy. It looked okay on the lights. The Tim Slade's Cool Drive or Dayco car, that looked great under lights. Just on a side note, Jacobson Muscle Car Warehouse, nobody cares with your back of the field thing. And Hazelwood brought out once again that standard Dunlop livery that Brad Jones Racing has been running for a couple of years now when they run the Dunlop livery. There was also a few driver announcements before the weekend happened. None surprising. I think I'd already mentioned that these were, done deals that hadn't been announced. Matt Stone Racing and Jack LeBrock there with the Truck Assist money. When's that going to get announced? Walkinshaw, Percat, we all knew that was happening. And Fullwood is going to BJR. So that's... And Brad had essentially said that Macca is still going to be in that third or fourth, as I said, depending on how you look at the team layout. So I think that's all the seats accounted for now. Other than the Matt Payne Grove Racing one, that's a little bit whether he gets dispensation or not, but it seems everyone's saying that now that is basically, unless he doesn't get the dispensation, that seat is locked away for him as well. So that's, the 2022 grid all already announced, pending anything happening at Techno. So the racing over the weekend, probably rather than, kind of go through a blow by blow, kind of report, because the racing was close, and I actually really enjoyed the racing because you didn't quite know who was going to win the races. And like in that third race where we had Will Brown, but after the pit stops, I thought that was done and dusted. Like Anton was, I think it was 11 or 12 seconds out ahead, and all of a sudden then, Will Brown was just chomp, 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 and he was there basically on him. Obviously, Anton was saving a bit of tyres. We did see over the weekend people kind of throw all their eggs in maybe not one basket, but there was definitely like the Erebus boys. They were both really quick on Saturday night, and then one of them had a dud race each on Sunday. So I suppose they decided between them, like, we're going to have 2 good races and 1 dud race. So was still a little bit of that, tyre strategy going, so you couldn't probably go flat chat all 3 races. Disappointments over the week. I'm going to have a bit of a look at, kind of winners and losers over the weekend. I will say definitely Erebus, they were, to me, the winner over the weekend because, their guys were up the front and they were up front on genuine pace, and you didn't notice that they kind of did have a bad race in there each because of there was 1 car up there in each race and they both ran so well on the... Other than that pit stop for Will Brown on Saturday night, if they'd... Because then I'll give it to the guys, like they had that shocker with Will's pit stop. Then Brody came in, banged it out of the park, really good stop. Another thing about pit stops, the commentators, they seem to get really carried away about, for some reason, 3 tyres is quicker than 4 tyres. Now, I will... 888, they were running, because you can only have 4 guys with 2 guns. So a 2 tyre stop is of course going to be quicker because you throw 2 guys on each of the 2 wheels and you have a gun on each wheel. Now, if you're doing 4, you've obviously got 1 gun on each side and 2 guys on each side. I will give it, the 888 guys, they did run 1 guy on, the unloaded side to do a single wheel, and then they had 3 guys working on the other side. So you had 1 on each wheel and then 1 guy that did the gun and then run to the next one, so they were ready to go. So under that circumstance, the 3 tyre was slightly quicker than the 4 tyre, but most of the teams who did 3 tyre seemed to run 2 guys on one side, so you still had the 2 guys running, like do the rear tyre and then run to the front. And other than, the Will Davison having to control or delete the car, the 2 kind of tyres seem to be the better way to go. If you did the 4, the 3 didn't seem to make that big a difference. The time that you seem to lose in the pits doing the 4 didn't account for what you were making up on the track in general. So I think we'll see a lot more 2 tyre stops depending on the tyre strategy for the rounds to come. But I was very impressed with the Erebus. They kind of got my tick of approval for the weekend, I suppose you put it. They impressed me the most. DJR, other than their little niggling problems like having to Control-Alt-Delete the car, poor starts, putting the wrong tyre on a car, there's a list of things that they did wrong over the weekend. They could have clean swept the weekend. Anton's qualifying, my God, people are talking about him like he's Scott McLaughlin at the moment. Obviously, there's still some rough edges that, and the team's a few little errors in there, kind of thing. But like, my God, those qualifying results, he was light years ahead of the rest in qualifying. That was unbelievable. I'm struggling to even remember a time where Scott McLaughlin was that far ahead in qualifying. There was a little bit of a surprise there on Saturday night. A team that I've probably been a little bit critical of for quite a while, generally with good reason. I nearly thought I was about to eat my words on it because the cars had been given a birthday over the break. And actually, we're talking about Techno here. Coulthard was genuinely running in the top 10 at one point. He ended up finishing 11th. And Gary was genuinely in the top 20 as well, and he finished 17th. And I thought, right, these guys, they're back on track. Jesus, that's quite impressive from them. But then on Saturday, On Sunday, I keep thinking it was a Friday, Saturday event. Long weekend in Melbourne has definitely not helped. Then usual programming resumed on Sunday, and were 23rd and 24th in the first race, and then 21st and a DNF for Fabs in the second race. So the world was right again, and their results were back where they belong. Tickford. What the hell happened? Maybe they're doing a bit of a Townsville where they take a little bit to warm up, but where are we? On Saturday night, Cam was the best result there, 13th, Jack was 24th, and James was 22nd. Terrible. Not much better in race 2. 14th for Cam, 15th for Jack, and 19th for James. Not where they should be. They did improve for the third race though. Cam was 6th, Jack was 8th. Jack LeBrock was 8th. Maybe, considering his results were quite near James's over the weekend, maybe his car's been specced up, so it's a little bit more equal there at the moment. James ended up 12th in the last race. Not where they should be. They should be contending for wins. Well, Cam should be contending for wins. So to 6th as the best result from the 3 cars all weekend. Very disappointing, but at least for them, they were on an upward trajectory. They didn't look like they were in with a shot all weekend. The only real crash incident, I suppose, to talk about was from that first lap on the third race, where, my God, how the whole pack seemed to be just together in one big punch. And then to think the only one that got affected by it was Todd Hazelwood, where he tried, I forget but he tried climbing up when they had a bit of an interlocking wheels by look, and had a bit of a climb up and broke the steering in it. He did get, I think it was like 6 laps down, but they did get him back out. And, but to think the people say about the pay drivers and whatever, Jack Smith is just a pay driver, blah, 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 and whatever. To think that the pack was racing like that for so long in the race as well. It wasn't just like turn 1 kind of stuff. That went on for the whole first lap. They were all just bunched together. And for that to be the only incident, in years gone by, someone would have definitely got turned around and there would have been T-bonings and safety cars. No safety car over the weekend as well. It's just the level that these guys are at now, it's next level. So that covers off, I suppose, the winners and the losers over the weekend, who impressed me, who didn't, whose new looks are any good and things like that. Down in the comments, let me know what you think. I would talk about the championship results, but realistically, Shane's got a whole round ahead of his teammate now. I think Davo's actually in 3rd. So there's not much to talk about in championship land. We're nearly done and dusted. Thank God, though, that it wasn't just a Shane Van Gisbergen walkover. The Shell boys are right in there. The Erebus boys did a really good job as well. Chaz, Nick Percat, they weren't far off. Cam they improved over the weekend. So hopefully next weekend they're there, and hopefully we do get a few different winners over the weekend. That's as much as my preview for the next weekend coming up. Keep an eye out. I will have, I'm going to do a separate video for the Bathurst tipping competition. Will essentially be the same as last year, but I'm going to do a separate video, show the prize that's on offer on that. So keep an eye out. That'll be out later on in the week. But until next time, I'm still Dave, and I'll catch you later.